Many people think about the financial situation in the world and they feel very insecure. Some people feel insecure because they think the oxygen is running out. People feel insecure because of the general security of the world. People thought that after World War II, when they made the United Nations, then everything's now all set up, and it fixed up all the world's problems. And they discovered that they haven't fixed all the world's problems, and people don't feel secure also because of the energy sources, or clean energy, what's going to happen, and also privately, people don't feel secure because they're concerned about very legitimate things that are very important. They're worried about their relationships, they're worried about their health, they're worried about their personal finances. And the Jewish people this week are also in a state of total insecurity. In front of them is the sea, in back of them is the Egyptians, and they have nowhere to go, and they're in a state of absolute insecurity. So the Torah says that God told Moshe Rabbeinu to stretch out his staff, and immediately a miracle happens. The wind blows and all night, and the water splits. Then God tells Moshe Rabbeinu to put his staff upon the water again, and the water goes upon all the Egyptians. So when the water goes back over the Egyptians, the Torah says the water goes back to its strength, le'etano, to its strength. Baal Turim says that the word strength is also related to the word, the same letters as the word litna'o, to its condition. What's the meaning of the word condition? So Talmud says that when God created the Reed Sea, he made a condition with it. He says, listen, I'm going to create you. You get to flow with your water for as long as you can, as long as you like. However, there's a condition. The condition is when the Jewish people arrive there, you're going to have to split. That's the condition God made with it. Now the obvious question is, why does God need to make a condition? Making a condition shows weakness. It shows that he's not in control. And he has to make a condition so the Reed Sea should agree, and this is a condition. If you got to take one of these hamburgers, they're making a condition. I'm going to take you if I could put. Don't put any relish, just mustard, ketchup. Anyways, but you don't make a condition. It's your hamburger. You put whatever you want on it. How come Hashem has to make a condition with the Reed Sea? What's it you making a condition? What does that mean? It seems to show that he's not in control. If you have a home, you could add a room to your home if you could afford it. You could take away a room. You could make another floor, whatever. But you don't need to make a condition with it when you buy the home. If you sell the home, it's different, because when you sell them, you're relinquishing ownership. So then you make a condition with the buyer about what the conditions are about the sale of the home. But Hashem is in control. It's his world.
Make the conditions with the home.
Huh? Now, right. With the buyer, right? Exactly. So what's the idea of Hashem making a condition with the sea? He created the sea. What does that mean? So there's something very profound over here that could really open up a world for each of us in our lives. And God willing, tonight we're going to walk away from this room feeling very, very secure. Okay?
Oh.
And hopefully before that, with Mashiach in Yerushalayim.
Oh,
so there are two kinds of miracles that God performs. There are miracles like Hanukkah and miracles like Purim. Miracles like Hanukkah means miracles that are above nature completely. You see with your eyes the miracles happening. You see the candle is supposed to last for one day and it lasts for 8. And there are miracles like Purim where the whole miracle is garbed within nature. You don't see a miracle happen. There's something about miracles beyond nature that gets us very excited. We see openly and clearly that Hashem is doing something. But on the other hand, the miracle which is beyond nature is it's a deficiency in a way. Why is it a deficiency? It shows God's power, but also shows his weakness. It seems. It doesn't show fully his power. Let me explain. Let's say when God took the staff of Moses and he turned the staff of Moses into a snake. So on the one hand, that shows his infinite power. The staff is a staff. A moment before, God now changes the staff to becoming a snake. It shows how God can change the staff and turn it into a snake. It shows Hashem is infinite. He's not limited to the rules of nature. On the other hand, the staff, as it is a staff, is not a snake. So to speak, the staff wants to be a staff, and God superimposes upon his staff his will, and he changes the staff from being a staff to being a snake. So if you were to ask a staff, what do you want to be, so to speak, the staff is a staff. It's kind of like an employer yelling at his employees. The employees are not subservient to the employer. And that's why he has to assert his authority over the employees, because they're not subservient. If they were subservient, then they would just do what he wants automatically. So the fact that God has to break the nature of the thing sort of shows that there is something about it that's resisting the will of God. And therefore God has to break its nature. And this is the idea of the condition that God made with the sea. The truth is that it says in the wisest of all men, King Solomon said that Ma shahaya le ma sheyeh, ein chadash tachas hashemesh. Whatever was is what will be. There's nothing that's new under the sun. There's something different about God's original creation of the world than all the things that man have created throughout history. There's been a lot of dramatic changes in the world throughout history. Before Columbus sailed to America, people thought that the world was flat. People thought there was no people living on the side of the world. People were saying if there are people on the side of the world, they may fall off the world because, we're on the top, they're on the bottom, they're going to fall off. People actually, not just people thought this. The Catholic Church... The Catholic... History repeats itself. But you're right, it's pretty impressive. People could still... Anyways. So the Catholic Church had a rule. They really made a rule. There's a law they made that if anyone would dare say that there are people living on the other side of the world, they are going to be killed. They executed. You can't say that it's lahavdil. We knew the whole time that there was people on the other side of the world because we had the Talmud, we had the Zohar. The Zohar says that there are people on the top, people on the bottom, and but it was a total discovery. If someone never saw the ocean, never saw fish in the ocean, for him to imagine that life could only exist inside the ocean, it's a fascinating concept. They've never heard of it before. A tree coming out of a seed. If you never saw a tree growing out of a seed, never knew about that, it'd be hard to believe that's something that could really happen. And in a similar way, but the truth is that that's not really new. God created the world with all of this yesh miyesh. Yesh miyesh means something coming from something, including all of the fascinating things that technology, as Rebbe said before Mashiach will come, technology will go very, very fast. And he said more that technology will go the fastest in regards to communication, because Mashiach will come and the world will be like one family. So to prepare for Mashiach, communication will be the fastest thing that will develop in technology. So we see phones, internet, all this good stuff. It's not new. It's not something which is never. Hashem created all the materials, and man has taken the potential from these things and made something out of it. But it's not something that's new. However, when God created the world, it was brand new. It wasn't here, and He made it. Now it's here. And when God made the world, He right away said the purpose of why He made the world. In the very first word in the Torah. The first word in the Torah is Bereshit. Talmud says Bereshit means first. There are two things which are called first. The Jewish people are called first, and the Torah is called first. So God made the world for the sake of the Torah and for the sake of our people, for the sake of the Jewish people keeping the Torah. And Hashem created the world out of nothing with this intent. So that's why it's always possible in any part of the world that you're in, no matter what's going on in your life, wherever you are, whatever's going on, no matter how annoying it may seem, in that place that you're in, you're able to reveal godliness. You're able to reveal spirituality. Because that's what the world is about. That's what every point of the world is about. It's about godliness. It's from Hashem, and it's for a godly purpose. That's what the Arizal means when he says that everything in the world has a soul. It doesn't mean that everything in the world has life in the sense of a human being having life. But everything has a soul. The soul means it has a godly power that makes it exist. And the godly power is there for a godly purpose. So the same is also with the reed sea. The purpose of the sea, yes, to give water, etc. But no, then it's God says there's a condition. I'm making the condition, you're going to flow, and you're going to give water, but when the Jewish people come there, you're going to split. When the sea splits, that's when it gets its greatest power. Because that's when it comes in touch with what it's meant to be. So unlike the analogy I said before about the staff, where it looks like the staff is losing itself to do God's will, it's not being a staff anymore, it's going away from itself. The truth is that when the sea is split, it's becoming itself. It's going closer to its inner purpose. It's going closer to what it's really all about the whole time. It's not breaking for the sake of God's will. It's getting stronger for the sake of God's will. That's why the Hebrew word strength is the same letters as the word condition. When the sea fulfills the condition and it splits, it's getting stronger. That's its greatest strength. It's revealing its inner vitality of what it's about. It's revealing its godly force. It's revealing its soul. And I mentioned last night that there's this study in Israel on human behavior called Efrat. Efrat is an acronym of 4 things. Aleph stands for Irua. And remember what Fei stands for? Irua means event. Fei stands for Parshanut, which means a narrative you tell yourself from the event. And Reish stands for Regesh, the feelings you have because of the narrative. And finally, Tkuva, your response to this. So, Yankel doesn't say Shalom Aleichem to me. And I'm insulted. Why isn't he saying every Friday night he comes doesn't say Shalom Aleichem? So I'm thinking, why isn't he saying Shalom Aleichem? Why isn't he saying Shalom Aleichem? There's more than one. Everyone has their Yankel. And I'm thinking, well, he doesn't say Shalom Aleichem because he doesn't like me, he doesn't respect me, I don't mean anything to him. That's why he's not saying Shalom Aleichem. One day I muster up enough courage to say, Yankel, how come you don't say Shalom Aleichem to me? He says, Rabbi, because 1 week I was staying with a group of people, and you just gave your hand to every one of them except for me. That means you don't like me, you don't respect me. So if you don't respect me, so I don't respect you. And so what do you need to do? You need to go to say hello to Yankel first, and make sure that this is all, because our feelings have to do with our narrative. The event is the event. The event happened. I didn't give Shalom Aleichem. Okay, but that wasn't really what was going on. I just happened to not realize that I didn't give him Shalom Aleichem. It wasn't really what. So our feelings are a product of our narrative, and this is the power that God gives each person. The power of imagination. The power of imagination allows us to change the narrative of any circumstance, to see more deeply what is really going on, to not look at things externally and look at things more deeply. Queen Esther, as we mentioned last night, when she was taken to the church of Achashverosh, she was taken to the king, and all of a sudden in this church of all the idols, she suddenly lost her divine inspiration. She suddenly lost her ability to see the future and to feel in touch with Hashem in the same way she did as a prophetess. She didn't feel that way. So what did she say? She said the words of King David in Psalm 22, my God, why have you left me? And it's a good thing for a Jew to feel that he could talk to Hashem, and talk to Hashem how he feels. And you're supposed to. And because Hashem is our Father, and you're supposed to speak to Hashem like you speak to a father, and you can say why. But her question wasn't just why. Another way of reading her question that the Chassidic master says, her question was, Lema azavtani. For what purpose did you leave? I am now in a situation where I don't see you, I don't feel you, and I'm in the dark. There's something you want to accomplish over here. There's something that you have an intent over here, and I want to ask you, Hashem, Lema, what's that purpose? I'm thinking what that purpose is. Every moment of our lives is a note. You can't create more than notes than there are. There's do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and that's it. And every moment of our life is ordained. You can't change the notes. What you can change is your narrative of the notes. That's the meaning of the words of King David, sing to Hashem a new song. The song is created by the way you arrange the notes. How do you arrange the notes? By singing to Hashem, by looking above the here and now. I'll sing a new song. Baruch Hashem.
How many notes?
Right. This is maybe perhaps a good analogy, right? If you're giving a talk and someone has the phone rings, you could say, "Oh my gosh, what a chutzah! Why didn't you put it on a vibrate?" Or you could think, "Oh, that's great! It fits right into what we're talking about, right?" Whatever. It has to do with stopping and thinking, what is Hashem's purpose for what is going on? So this is
definition of the word narrative.
What's the meaning of that narrative?
Definition. Yeah.
Narrative means the words that you use to explain to yourself why what's going on. Parshanut.
Interpretation?
No, there's event. It's interpretation.
But how you interpret the event.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
So the truth is that every creature in the world, everything that God made, is for the sake of Torah and the Jewish people. And when you have that perspective, that just like God split the Red Sea for the purpose of Torah, for the purpose of the Jewish people, and that's what God does for everything in the world, that everything in the world is going to follow God's plan. So you feel, as Baal Shem Tov says, Shivisi Hashem Nagdusam. King David says in Tehillim, I have put Hashem before me at all times. Shivisi, says Baal Shem Tov, means hishtavut. Hishtavut means equanimity. You feel equal. In every situation, it's possible for a person to feel, as Baal Shem Tov teaches, this kind of serenity that you feel you're in Hashem's hands no matter what's going on, because you know there's a purpose. You know that's not happening by itself. I'm not saying it's an easy thing to feel all the time, but that's the tool you need to think about in order to have that serenity, to feel that you're in Hashem's hands. There are people who are more gifted, like Yankel, another Yankel. Yankel is waiting, his mother's waiting for him to come home from school. It's 4 o'clock, and there's a rainstorm, and there's thunder, and there's lightning. She's worried about a poor little Yankel. What's going to happen to my little Yankel who's coming home from school? He's supposed to be here 4 o'clock. It's a rainstorm. She doesn't know what to do. And Yankel comes in the middle of the rain, and he's skipping, and he's jumping, and he's smiling. And whenever the thunder, the lightning comes, he sticks his head up and he smiles at the sky. He says, Yankel! He takes off his jacket and warms him up, and Yankel, I'm so impressed that you were so happy, not scared in the rain and the thunder. Why weren't you scared? He says, Mommy, you taught me. Wherever you go, you're going with God. I'm going with God. Why should you feel scared? I'm going with God. So Yankel, why would you look in the sky when there was lightning and smiling? Mommy, you always told me to smile for the camera. When God's taking the picture, I gotta smile. That's a more sophisticated approach that Yankel has. I don't think that we are naturally in the level of Yankel, but that's the level we need to get to, and that's why Hashem specifically taught us this message by the splitting of the Reed Sea. Why? This is true for everything, but it doesn't say that about everything in the world that its strength is its. There are many miracles that happen. There were 10 plagues. But only about this does the Torah say it fulfilled this condition. Why about that? Why specifically about the splitting of the Reed Sea? Why doesn't it say about the other 10 plagues? It says about the splitting of the Reed Sea, it was hard for God. When the Talmud says that God makes matches between people, God arranges shidduchim, the Talmud says it's as hard for God to make a shidduch as hard as it is to split the Reed Sea. Why does the Talmud say that's hard? What about blood and frogs and lice? They're not hard? Well, this was a harder one? What does it mean it's hard? So Maharal says something unbelievable. The Maharal says that the Talmud says that when God split the Reed Sea, all the water in the world split. Everything. You were in a bathtub, all of a sudden the water in the bathtub split. You were jumping into a pool, oops, you better go back on the diving board. So what happened is, says the Maharal, Hashem didn't just change the actual water. Hashem changed the 10 utterances with which He made the world. Hashem changed the very fiber of the spirituality that created the physical world. He changed the 10 utterances. So now water, it's not like the water split because that's what water does. Understand? It's not just there was a miracle the water split. That's the nature of the water now. Nature of the water is to stand like this, to stand. And it was a double miracle because on the one hand the water split, and it was like another hand people could still drink from the water, as it says in the Talmud that when they crossed the Reed Sea they could stick their hand in and drink from the water too. So it was that became a new phenomenon. It was not that Hashem made a miracle to change something. Hashem changed the DNA of the world for the sake of the Jewish people. Hashem revealed to us at the splitting of the Red Sea that the very nature of the world itself is a creation of God and for you. Let's bring this home a little bit. And not everyone was able to make it to this part of the farbrengen, so I can share with you a new story I didn't share with you yet. Rabbi Lifshitz, who used to live in the Ukraine, he was a Rebbe's emissary there. It was 1 year before Passover. He had a big calamity. What was the calamity? Calamity was that he had 10 donors that were giving him $18,000 every month to help him support all the different activities he had in the various cities in Ukraine. And all these 10 donors all of a sudden had different things that happened to their businesses, and they couldn't support his work anymore. One by one, they all stopped. And he had the last two. I think the last two also moved to Israel. Stuff happened, and he's now he has to make Passover in 10 cities, and he has no to do. So he decides he's going to go to America to collect funds for Passover Seder. So for whatever, and it's Passover. So he has a list of people he wants to visit. He arrives in New York, and he wakes up in the morning, and his phone is broken. Not just it's dead, it's really dead. It's gone. Okay. I mean, his wife has a list. She'll call up his wife. His wife calls the house he's staying in. Hi, you don't believe what happened. Our computer broke. It's all gone. The whole memory's erased. There's no cloud. There's no shalom. It's all gone. So he didn't want to dishearten his wife and tell her, well, that's actually why I wanted to speak to you, because my phone died and I need to have the information. He's stuck. You're stuck. But we know a Jew is never stuck. Because God created the world for the sake of Torah, for the sake of the Jewish people. Therefore, a Jew is never stuck. As Rebbe told those women who were stuck in Detroit, they thought they were stuck in Detroit. This is you hear a story, you could hear a story and goes in one ear out the other, or it could change your life. Rebbe said a Jew is never stuck. Wherever you are is where you're meant to be, and it's a whole different way of living. Anyways, getting back to Rabbi Lifshitz, he has to buy 20 tickets for 20 yeshiva students to make 10 Passover seders in 10 villages in the Ukraine. So he has to get the money for this, and he's supposed to. He's supposed to meet the travel agent. He goes out of the home he's staying, and he turns to God and he says to God, "There's only two things that could happen right now. If you want your children to have a Passover seder, so there's going to be a sack of cash that's suddenly going to appear, and and out of the sack of cash there's going to be enough money for 20 tickets to the Ukraine. The other option is that your children will not have a Passover seder. So what do you want to do, God?" So the sack didn't appear, and he walked towards the travel agent. And when he got to the travel agent's office, he still had old money from the year before. He didn't pay all completely; there's still a balance. And the travel agent wanted to talk to him, and the secretary said, "He just stepped out for a second. Please wait in the waiting room." He's sitting in the waiting room. He's looking around the various things that are in the waiting room, and there's a little sign in the waiting room. The sign says, "Don't tell God how big your problems are. Tell your problems how big your God is." When he saw that sign, it gave him such an energy that when he met the travel agent had no doubt that this man would be able to produce the funds needed for this, and extend the credit. What happened? What it means is like this. Ordinarily, what do? We have a problem, and we say, "Hashem, help me from these problems." So, and we say, "Hashem, these problems are breaking me. These problems are hurting me. These problems are putting me down. Please save me from my problems." What the sign said is the opposite. You turn to the problems. You say to the problems, "You think these problems can break me? I'm going with Hashem. I'm an emissary of the Rebbe. I have a mission to do in this world. This can't break me. I'm going on a mission for Hashem. It's not possible. It's not going to be successful." That's the meaning of the splitting of the Reed Sea. Splitting the Reed Sea means, think about it. Think about people we've all been through earthquakes if you're living in Southern California, Baruch Hashem. But there are people who went through earthquakes that have really traumatized them. That they remember the moment, and the reason that they remember the moment is because everything is not secure. Even the ground they're standing on is not secure. It's a whole. It's a stunning event. You don't know what to do. It's astonishing. When they had the splitting of the Reed Sea, what happened? A tree is not a tree. The ocean, the sea is not a sea. The whole world melted away in front of their eyes, and it was as if it's not there. Nature is not nature. They suddenly felt that the world is not the way it's seen. And what is the world? It's a creation of God. And that's what God wanted them to hold on to throughout their lives. It should make an impression on them, an impression on us, that we should feel that nature is not a thing. That God created nature. And the reason God created nature in every circumstance we're in is for the sake of Torah, for the sake of the Jewish people. And therefore it's not possible for there to be something, you to be in a situation where there isn't a purpose of God in that situation, where you don't have a mission to do. It's not possible. Your mission is not going to be achieved because God created the world for the sake of your mission. After Yom Kippur War, Rabbi Shomer Elau was in an audience with the Rebbe, and the Rebbe asked him, "What's the conversation in Israel? What's the feeling in Israel?" And he's told the Rebbe, in Israel, the conversation is, what's going to be? Are we going to have to suffer with this terror, and there'll be more wars? What's going to happen to us? And the Rebbe said, a Jew doesn't ask what will be. The Jew asks, what am I meant to do? That's the question that a Jew is supposed to ask. I have a mission. I'm supposed to accomplish something. Hashem has a mission for me. And that's why it says that at the splitting of the Reed Sea, it says, a maidservant, the splitting of the Reed Sea, saw what the prophet Yecheskel couldn't see. It says there was a splitting of the sea in heaven, splitting of the sea on earth. Why did the maidservant see that Yecheskel didn't see? Yecheskel saw stuff happening in the spiritual worlds. Yecheskel saw stuff happening, the things we read about in books, in Gan Eden, and Atzilus. That's what Yecheskel saw. What did the maidservant should see? She saw the world itself is not what it seems. That was something that was phenomenal. That was something that was impressive. That's something that Hashem wanted us to hold on to. And that's why at the end of the splitting of the Reed Sea, what does the Torah say? Moses caused them to travel. They couldn't travel by themselves. Hashem wanted them to travel with this experience. This is how we're supposed to travel through life. Vayasa Moshe at Moshe made them travel they had difficulties later, and they complained about this and that because they forgot somewhat with this experience. But Hashem wanted them to stay with that experience, because the splitting of the Reed Sea on a personal level means you sing to Hashem a new song. You're in a situation, and there's a sea of thoughts, and you split the sea, and you say, Hashem has a purpose here, and that purpose is going to be fulfilled. And that conviction that you know that the Torah and the mitzvahs that you need to accomplish are going to be accomplished, that itself reveals God's purpose in creation. It reveals you're able to reveal the godliness in your situation where you are by making that firm resolve that Hashem's intent, Hashem's mission is going to be achieved. Hashem give each of us the strength to be in touch with the splitting of the Reed Sea on a personal level, and we should see the splitting of the Reed Sea, as the Talmud says, and the Prophet says, when Mashiach will come, there will also be a similar kind of event when Hashem will reveal the energy of Hashem in creation, the physical world. We'll see it tonight. What stuff you in?